win all their remaining games, it will be theirs. Is there any way you think they might drop points? Let's have a little look at the run-in that awaits them. Obviously, City with an extra game which will be happening tomorrow night. It is the derby against the Man United team, who we'll be discussing in a second or two, arrive fresh from one of their worst away defeats in decades. And we'll talk about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing in terms of firing yourself up for the derby. But beyond the game at Old Trafford, can you see City dropping points? Will Liverpool win all their remaining fixtures? What do you think, James?
Well, I think the Manchester derby is really going to be something. United's still unbeaten in the league at home under Solskjaer. Burnley away. Just love the kind of clash of cultures, right. That we could see there. And we've just seen Burnley get a great result away from home against Chelsea as well. So. But they're just immaculate. Given the consistency, it is really hard to see any of them dropping points, which would lead me to believe that City will win this league.
Jonathan?
I'm not so sure. I think the manner of United's debacle on Sunday actually makes it likelier that they'll dig in and make it very, very difficult for City. So I could see them dropping points there. I actually think, it might not surprise you, but I actually think Leicester's quite a difficult game for them, just because Brendan Rodgers always had a good record against City. I know Guardiola's in charge now and it's different, but just on the basis that he got results there, and he seemed to have the antidote a little bit to the passing football. So
right, he could finally win a title for Liverpool.
He could win a title. That's lovely. How the symmetry.
Yeah. Nice. All right, well, let's talk about United then. When Ole Gunnar Solskjaer arrived as caretaker boss at the club, Man United promptly romped right into the top 4 places. So United gave him the job permanently, at which point they promptly slumped to 6 defeats out of 8 and back down to 6th place. No wonder fans are wondering what's going on. A director of football directing those transfer acquisitions, those transfer operations, it's difficult. How close are Man United to actually installing a professional at doing this job?
Well, there were reports yesterday of Mike Phelan maybe becoming the...
Would that fall into that category?
Look, I think there are a variety of directions you can go through in terms of having someone in that role who understands the values of the club, the culture that needs to be installed. I think we all can appreciate Mike Phelan maybe has those attributes. Has been at the club when Sir Alex Ferguson is now back there. I think everyone pointed when David Moyes became the manager that it was a mistake not to keep some of that backroom staff that was there. But you need, I think, people whose full-time job is there to scout for talent, identify talent, but also identify character. Yeah. I think that's one of the things that United have made mistakes of. Their strategy when it's come to the transfer market too often in recent years under Woodward has been about generating hype, a buzz, trending on Twitter, and that sort of thing, rather than finding out what's functional and what this team needs. And I think you can look at that hodgepodge of players that United have got. There's no doubt that there's a lot of talent there.
Right.
But are they the right characters for that dressing room? I think that's something that's obviously been called into question big time.
Again and break, and then when they play lesser sides, I don't think are quite good enough to control a match and break down, and that's just one of the many issues that they've got to solve.
Absolutely. Results been going bad for a while, but Sunday represented a nadir, 4 goals away at Everton. 5 years to the day, funnily enough, to a 2-0 defeat there, which brought the end for David Moyes. And it brings them to, 85 goals conceded now for the season, which is their worst ever figure in the Premier League, and we've still got 3 games to go.
Well, it was the scale of the defeat, the manner of the defeat, some of the performances. David De Gea this season has, for the most part, not been the same player since the World Cup, which was a difficult World Cup for him. You look at that centre-backs that they've got, an area that Jose Mourinho wanted to strengthen, had been able to strengthen in his first season, and I think that's one of the reasons why he wasn't allowed to since, but that's got to be an area that they look to improve in the summer. It was just a nightmarish performance, just on a very basic level, conceding from long throw-ins, from Everton taking throw-ins from inside their own half, counter-attacks. He's happy.
How will fans like this one be feeling on Wednesday night, do you think, Jonathan?
Oh, goodness me, there'll be trepidation going to Old Trafford that given how bad they were at the weekend, they could be under real hiding against the biggest rivals, well, apart from Liverpool.
There are two schools of thought, I guess. One is that a beating like that is going to leave your morale rock bottom, and indeed, it's interesting to see the Daily Mail reporting that angry players had turned on each other post-game at United, which I guess some would take, conversely, as a good sign, because a team performance that had looked like the players didn't have enough emotionally invested in it, the notion of them actually being angry afterwards is a positive sign?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the players themselves will have plenty of energy and fire to try and put things right. Whether they're actually good enough, even if they play at their maximum, if City play at 75%, they'll probably still win the game. But you know, I do expect a better Manchester United. But if I was a United fan, I'd just be a little bit worried about, haunted by some of the images from Goodison Park and the thought of, I don't know, Bernardo and Aguero and so on wreaking what they can do to a defence.
Right. It's a derby, though, you never know. So ahead of Wednesday's mega Manchester meeting, let's hear now from both managers, starting off with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
That's the point. How do we go forward? That's what we've got to focus on. Of course, you got to look back and reflect on what happened, and that was one of our two really bad games since I've come. I've got to say, this one and the FA Cup game against Wolves, they're the two that should say we were nowhere near the standards that we have set ourselves, and bounce back. Look forward to. As I said after the game as well, we've got two great games to come into, and this one is the first one and the main focus. We got one of the best teams in the country at the moment coming. Of course, it's a local derby. We've got to be ready.
Well, 4 games left, so we have to win all 4 games to retain the title. It's not an easy place to go, but at the same time, nice place to go. So we know exactly what you have to do. They fight to finish the top 4, and we for retain the title, and we're going to go there to do a good game. Even a good result, the confidence will be a little bit higher, and it's a derby. And all the times we play against United, I remember was here, the derbies I played in Spain and in Germany, always there are special games, and all the players do their best for themselves, for the fans, for the club, for where they are playing for. So I saw the game, in fact, what they do, imagine a little bit what it's going to happen against us, and that's all. It's a different game. The game Everton is over, it's finished, and new one tomorrow.
Wow. Make a case for Man United, James.
Well, I think there should be a reaction from the defeat at the weekend.
Yep.
We have seen that United tend to do better when they've got less of the ball and don't have to take the initiative.
Exactly.
They've got good counter-attacking players. Pogba in transition. Think of the pace that they've got with Martial, Rashford, when they want to make the difference. And we've seen actually Solskjaer in the league and the FA Cup at least do pretty well against other top 6 sides. So, but I don't believe my own case.
Nobody gave him a chance away at PSG, of course. And this is at home to Man City. It's just stats like the fact that only Scott McTominay has scored a goal that wasn't a penalty during the whole of April for Man United. It's the fact that the last 2 games have seen them go without scoring any goals but conceding 7. It's things like that. And this general perception that things are getting worse, and that, in the words of Gary Neville, memorably on Sunday, Japanese knotweed, knotweed has taken root in the dressing room.
Yeah, I mean, it was very powerful stuff from Gary Neville. He was going down the road of these being bad characters and there being something flawed about the mentality. There's a bit in that, but I think that overlooks the biggest issue, which is they're not good enough players. And it's not a well enough put together squad. You know,
but with them, and I know we talked about the way they've spent their money, but they have spent a phenomenal amount of money for players who have been absolutely outstanding in the past, whether it's De Gea, who's been outstanding at Old Trafford, or Paul Pogba, who's won a World Cup with France.
I mean, Pogba's bad season amounts to 16 goals and 11 assists from midfield in all competitions. So, you know, I mean, God only knows if he was to have a good season what he would be like. You know, I think my issue, I suppose, with Pogba is, you know, he gives an interview after the fact, you know, before this Man City game, in which he says all the right things. He fronts up, but it's kind of it's too late. You need to see that on the pitch. And I think United are pretty good at coming out and saying we won't do that again. It was disrespectful and all this sort of thing. But it keeps happening. And I look at who are the kind of senior players there on the pitch who will help change the direction or mood of a team during a game when things are going against them. I think that's where they come up short.
Yeah, that's a good point. And people get angry at Pogba. I think Gary Neville really had Pogba in mind when he was ranting, because I think there's an expectation he's going to control the game, and that's not what he does. He needs a platform built for him, and then he's got the talents to go and damage the opposition. But the foundation just isn't there. There isn't a dictating player in that midfield to give Paul Pogba the opportunity to do what he can do.
I mean, if you look back, you have Pirlo can run a game at Juventus and Vidal break up a game and allow Pogba to do whatever he wants. For France, Matuidi, Kante, you don't. I mean, you and I could play in France's midfield with Matuidi and Kante breaking up opposition attacks and just letting us do what we would do, James.
What we would do. Quite a thought, that, James. A quick check on the players that Man United have brought in these wilderness years since Sir Alex left them to their own devices. And it is an extraordinary amount of money they've spent. There's the number of the players in, the money they've spent, and it's almost unmatched in world football. We talked a lot about what this game means to Man City, but for Man United it's also absolutely huge as well. They are only 2 points outside the top 4, but if they lose this, they do risk being left behind. And the risk there is that players like Pogba and some of the other stars they have will decide to make a move in the summer.
There's that, and they need to get new players in. Solskjaer was talking about that today. They need to rebuild. This is going to be a summer where Real Madrid are rebuilding, Bayern Munich are rebuilding, probably Chelsea, probably Bayern Munich. So I said Bayern Munich. Man United need to be in the Champions League to attract the really elite sort of band of player that they need. And then, of course, there's the keeping De Gea, keeping Pogba. Marcus Rashford's only got a year left after this, and at some point, local boy loves his club, but at some point he's going to want a little more in his career. So there's all sorts of things riding on this for United.
Right. One of the best title races in years, and one of the most dramatic derbies in store then as well.
Yeah, without doubt. One of the best races for a top 4 place as well. With 4 teams going right down to the final day just for that. And I think Johnny makes a really good point. I think with United, were it not for the commercial operation, were it not for the money from the TV deals, in any other league, they would find themselves in a kind of similar situation that, say, AC Milan have found themselves in.
Or Liverpool did for years.
Exactly. So it is crucial for them to keep. There's always going to be appeal for players to come and play at Old Trafford for Manchester United, but can't underestimate that those players want to be playing on the Champions League lights on Tuesday and Wednesday nights.
Absolutely. All right, well, next up, let's catch up then on one of Man United's top 4 rivals, Chelsea, as we discover what happened when they faced Burnley on Monday night at Stamford Bridge. Boos at the bridge and Sarri sent to the stands. We'll find out why in a couple of minutes on Premier League Today.